Every AI prediction you hear is either breathless hype or the end of the world. I wanted the realistic version. So here is the next 5 years of AI, 1 year at a time. 2026, the agents show up, and so do the layoffs. This is the year agents stop being chatbots you visit and start being software that does the work. They book the meeting, they pull the report, they draft the contract, then go act on it. Demis Hassabis runs Google DeepMind. He told Axios that this agent era is a practice run for what comes next. And here's the first hard evidence it is landing on real people. Stanford has a group called the Digital Economy Lab. They went through payroll records covering millions of workers. In the jobs most exposed to AI, employment for 22 to 25-year-olds fell 16% against everyone else. Not a forecast, payroll. The bottom rung of the ladder is where this shows up first, and it already has. Now the part almost no one saw coming. Every earlier wave of automation came for the lowest paid worker first. This one flipped. Anthropic checked its own usage data against 800 jobs. The heaviest exposure was in the computer and math work, office admin, and business and finance. The desk jobs everyone assumed were safe or the most exposed to the board. 2026 is the year the AI data center bill arrives. Here's the gap David Kahn, a partner at Sequoia, has spent 3 years measuring. How much the industry spends building these data centers versus how much the AI business actually brings in. That gap was $200 billion in 2023, $600 billion in 2024. His latest number is $1.5 trillion a year. Either the productivity shows up to close it, or this is the biggest overbuild in the history of technology. That question starts getting answered this year. Text-to-video crosses over from party trick to production tool. You describe a scene, it renders in 4K with matching sound and lip sync that holds. And a solo creator starts making footage that used to need a crew, a location, and a budget. Hold on to this one. It grows every single year on the list. The humanoids are shipping, and they are not coming to your house. ABI Research counts about 24,000 of them working worldwide, heading out to 2025. Fully AI-generated tracks climb real streaming charts this year, and most listeners cannot tell. More to the point, the ones who can tell increasingly do not care. The fight over whether an algorithm can make you feel something gets extremely loud, and the play counts go up the whole time. 2 smaller wins worth naming, because this year isn't only disruption. Somewhere, a radiologist is reading an MRI right now that AI already flagged, turning what used to be weeks of waiting into hours. And on a call somewhere, real-time voice translation quietly deletes the language barrier from a meeting. Nobody makes a documentary about the second one. It's more disruptive than most of the things that look disruptive. The robots did not come for your factory jobs first. They came for the desk jobs. Quick thing before 2027. An employer buys your time at what it costs to replace you. A client buys an outcome and pays what the outcome is worth. Same skill, same laptop, different buyer. I run a community called Solo AI where I show people how to make that switch. The AI video workflows, the cloud workflows, the offer, and a 5-month path to a client who pays for it. 240 people are in there right now. It's $29 a month, and at 300 members, it goes up to $59. Join before that, and you get $29 for life. First link in the description. 2027, companions get a face, robots get a price tag. At Davos in January 2026, Elon Musk said Tesla would be selling Optimus to the public by the end of 2027. Take that for what it is, a date from a man selling the robots. it is still the first real consumer robot date on the calendar, and ABI Research expects shipments to hit about 115,000 humanoids in 2027. That is the year this market stops being a demo reel. This is also the year AI companions get a face. Not text in a box, lifelike characters on the screen, answering in real time with expressions and emotional range that read as real presence. They can look like any character you want or a person you design yourself. And for a lot of people, they are simply easier to be around than the humans in their life. Not a joke and not a warning. It is going to be true for millions. Here's why that is suddenly believable instead of science fiction. The same research pushing robots forward is pushing faces and voices forward. The video tools already make photoreal people who lip sync in real time in a dozen languages. A companion is that same stack, pointed at a person instead of a scene. Nothing new has to be invented. It only has to be aimed. Fully synthetic personalities take over the top of Instagram and TikTok, posting daily, some out-earning humans on brand deals. Fans form real attachments to people who do not exist. Parasocial attachment is not new. Television ran that play for 50 years. The difference is the fictional person now answers your comments. And here's the one that matters most this year by distance. 2027 is when AI starts helping build AI. Labs are aiming at research agents that do the engineer's grunt work, running experiments overnight while humans set direction. Once the thing making progress is also the thing being improved, every timeline past this point gets harder to call, including this one. Video levels up from clips to storytelling. Forecasters put roughly 70% odds on AI writing a full movie script from a prompt. Short films become something one person can make. The studio moat starts draining from the bottom. By 2027, robots stop needing a recharge every hour and start working like employees. Solid-state batteries roughly double a humanoid's runtime in this window, up to a full 6-8 hour shift. A robot that works 1 hour is a demo. A robot that works a shift is a product. The battery is the difference. Studios lean on AI to render photoreal scenes and to de-age or outright recreate actors. Audiences start asking where the acting ends and the model begins. This one is already half true today, which is why 2027 is the year it stops being a controversy and starts being a line item. And here's the best news on this entire list. AI tutors go mainstream in schools. Every student gets a patient one-on-one that meets them exactly where they are. Teachers stop delivering material and start mentoring people. If you keep one item from this video, keep that one. It is the most quietly incredible thing on here. The first time a companion looks back at you and remembers yesterday, something changes. For some people, that would be the best relationship they have. 2028, the year most people bet AGI actually arrives. The most cited crowd forecast for AGI lands in February 2028. Shane Legg co-founded DeepMind and runs AGI Research there. He has held 2028 as his 50-50 date since 2009. That makes it one of the steadiest predictions in the field. And Sam Altman told Bloomberg that AGI probably gets developed during this president's term. That term ends in January 2029. Crowd forecasters, a lab scientist, and a lab CEO all pointed at the same window. Worth noticing, because the word has been beaten senseless. AGI is not a robot uprising, and it is not consciousness. It is a system that can think through almost any subject as well as a capable person, and do real work, start to finish. The test was never whether it can hold a conversation. It is whether it can do the whole job. And the same year carries a serious countercamp. 2028 is the year most people bet AGI actually arrives. The most cited crowd forecast for AGI lands in February 2028. Shane Legg co-founded DeepMind and runs AGI Research there. He has held 2028 as his 50-50 date since 2009. That makes it one of the steadiest predictions in the field. And Sam Altman told Bloomberg that AGI probably gets developed during this president's term. which is what makes it interesting instead of clean. The people who wrote the famous AGI by 2027 scenario push their own date out toward 2030. So 2028 is not the year the argument gets settled. It is the year the argument gets loud. 2028 is a US election year, and the first one running inside a mature AI video era. Forecasters put 69% odds that AI-made propaganda has a real effect on a race. In plain terms, you will not be able to trust a video of a candidate by default. Not the outrageous ones, any of them. People start sending realistic digital clones to video calls, speaking in your voice with your expressions and your timing, good enough that colleagues sometimes cannot tell. For anyone drowning in meetings, this is a genuine gift. It also raises a question nobody has answered. If your clone handles your presence online, how much of what people know as you is still you? Gartner expects agents to be making at least 15% of day-to-day work decisions on their own by 2028. A third of business software ships with the agents built in. Supervising agents becomes its own job. The org chart quietly grows a layer made of software, and the people who run that layer get paid like managers while working like operators. That is one of the best trades available in this whole decade. Streaming platforms pilot entire shows generated by AI. Dramas and anime that bend toward your taste. Bingeable, effectively endless. And plenty of people still choose human-made work specifically for its imperfection, which audiences turn out to pay a premium for. AI-designed drug candidates reach late-stage trials in real volume, and AI systems start appearing as named contributors on published results. A discovery pipeline that used to run a decade begins running in a fraction of that. That is the part of the list that makes among the biggest impacts, and it gets almost none of the attention. The year the machine can do the whole job, not just the fun parts. That is the line everyone has been arguing about, and 2028 is where most of the bets landed. Forecasters put 55% odds that more than half of households in a developed country use an AI assistant for daily decision-making by around now. Not a chatbot you go visit, an assistant who runs your calendar, your inbox, and your small choices by default, and interrupts you only for the big ones. And this is where the anxiety underneath everything else finally gets answered. The World Economic Forum ran the optimistic case. 170 million new roles created, 92 million wiped out. That is a net gain of 78 million jobs by 2030, and it only holds if people actually retrain in time. 2029 is when we find out whether that happened, or whether it was a hope with a footnote attached. Both outcomes are live. Driverless taxi fleets turn a profit in a handful of major cities. They talk to the traffic system in ways a human driver never could. For a lot of city dwellers, owning a car stops being the default and becomes a preference you have to justify. Characters in mainstream games remember what you did, form relationships, and adapt to how you play. Players spend hours bonding with characters instead of finishing missions. The companions from 2027 show up here again, wearing a different costume. And now the dark part, because leaving it out could turn this into a brochure. AI gets used for crime at scale. Deepfake scams, automated cyber attacks, fraud that runs itself with no human in the loop. Law enforcement answers with its own AI, and it becomes algorithm against algorithm at machine speed, with ordinary people as the scoreboard. Robots keep scaling and stay unglamorous. ABI Research has humanoid shipments reaching about 195,000 a year by 2030. Almost all of it goes to warehouses and hospitals. The version you would trust in your kitchen is not here yet. It gets a real price next year. AI diagnosis stops being a thing that beats doctors on tests and becomes a thing running inside hospitals, catching disease earlier than normal process does. The open question stops being whether it works and becomes who gets it. Screening for everyone or screening for people who can pay. That is a policy decision, and it gets made in this window whether or not anybody announces it. 2029 is the year the future has to show its receipts. Either the new jobs showed up or they did not. No more forecast, just a head count. 2030, the deadline everyone named, and the power bill nobody mentioned. The International Energy Agency put out a report called Energy and AI. Here's what they found. By 2030, the United States burns more electricity running data centers than making aluminum, steel, cement, and every other heavy industrial good put together. Worldwide, data center power more than doubles to around 945 terawatt hours. That is slightly more than the entire country of Japan uses today. And the first small nuclear reactors come online around 2030, pulled forward by exactly this demand. Sit with that for a second. Every other prediction on this list is about what AI can do. That one is about what it costs the physical world. The bottleneck on the future stops being intelligence and becomes electricity, which means the next decade gets decided by turbines, transformers, and permitting offices, and almost nobody is looking there. And this is where all that video progress finally pays off. Interactive AI movies. You choose the genre, the characters, the tone, and the story bends around your decisions in real time. Photoreal with AI actors. One person's sci-fi epic is another person's romance. Same film. What started in 2026 as a text-to-video toy ends the decade as a medium you steer. And the robots finally come home. General-purpose humanoids land in the $20,000 to $30,000 range, down from $1 million research machines. The first real home units arrive right about now. Not the fantasy version from 2026, the version the price curve actually supports. AI catching diseases months before a human doctor could is, by this point, the conservative reading of where the 2026 numbers already pointed. That is the payoff. No nanobots in your bloodstream, no bionic eyes. Just the boring, enormous win of finding life-threatening diseases much earlier. The companion from 2027 comes full circle. By 2030, it looks real. It remembers your history, and for a slice of people, it is their main relationship. Society is openly arguing about what that means, and the argument does not resolve. It just gets normal, which is how these things go. And whether or not a lab formally declares AGI in 2030, the world already be organized around the expectation of it. Capital moved, careers moved, power grids moved. The label matters far less than the fact that everybody spent 5 years building as though it were coming. Everyone circled 2030 as the finish line. Turns out, the race was never about how smart the machines got. It was whether we could keep them plugged in. Thanks for watching. And if you want to build something of your own out of any of this, that is what I do all day in my community on School. First link in the description. And make sure to watch this next video about the world in 2030.